She had always loved the sound of a piano. Even as a child, the gentle hum of the keys and the way the notes could carry emotions fascinated her. She would spend hours in a small corner of her home, fingers brushing over the worn keys of an old piano that her family had managed to hold on to for years. The piano was not perfect, and the wood was scratched in places, but every note it produced felt like magic in her hands. Music was more than just a hobby for her. It was a language she could speak without words, a way to express thoughts and feelings that were too deep for talking. Her talent had not gone unnoticed in her town. People often came to watch her perform at local events, small gatherings, and competitions. She had a natural ability to touch people's hearts with her music, and her reputation slowly grew. But she never let fame or recognition change her. She played because she loved it, and she wanted the music to feel real, to feel alive. Every performance was a new opportunity to connect with someone, even if it was just one person in a quiet audience. One afternoon, a music festival came to town. It was an annual event that attracted musicians from far and wide. For her, it was exciting but also intimidating. Famous performers, many with years of experience on world stages, would be there. She had watched some of them on television, never imagining that she might meet them in person. The thought of being in the same room as such renowned artists was thrilling but also made her heart race. The day of the festival arrived, and the venue was buzzing with energy. People were laughing, talking, and moving through the crowd, excited to see the performances. She walked in quietly, holding her music sheets, feeling a mix of nerves and anticipation. She found a seat at the back, hoping to observe and enjoy the music without drawing attention to herself. The festival was a swirl of colors, sounds, and smells. The aroma of fresh flowers from nearby stalls mixed with the scent of polished wood from the grand pianos lined up on stage. As the festival began, the famous pianist she had admired for years took the stage. The audience cheered, some standing to catch a better view. The pianist smiled and bowed, a figure of confidence and grace. She watched closely, noticing the way the pianist's hands moved with precision and ease, the way every note seemed deliberate and full of feeling. There was a light in the performer's eyes that spoke of passion, discipline, and a deep love for music. When the performance ended, the crowd erupted in applause, and she joined in, clapping with genuine admiration. Then, something unexpected happened. The famous pianist turned to the audience with a playful smile and looked directly at her. He pointed toward her and jokingly asked if she would come up and play a piece on the grand piano. The crowd laughed, thinking it was a light-hearted joke. Some people looked at her, curious to see if she would accept the playful challenge. She froze for a moment, heart pounding. She hadn't expected such attention. It felt like a dream, almost too surreal to be real. Her mind raced with questions and doubts. Was she really ready for this? What if she made a mistake? What if everyone laughed at her? But beneath the fear, there was a spark of excitement. This was an opportunity she could never have imagined. The chance to play in front of so many people, including a pianist she had admired for years, was rare and precious. After a few seconds that felt like minutes, she found herself standing up. The audience watched her as she walked toward the stage. Each step seemed heavy and light at the same time. Heavy because of the weight of expectation, and light because of the excitement coursing through her. She tried to steady her breathing, telling herself to focus on the music rather than the crowd. She reminded herself that she had practiced countless hours, learning to trust her fingers and her instincts. When she reached the piano, she paused and looked at the keys. They gleamed under the stage lights, smooth and inviting. She placed her fingers lightly on the keys, feeling the familiar texture beneath her touch. The crowd was silent now, the playful laughter replaced with curiosity and anticipation. She took a deep breath and let her hands find the notes, starting softly, almost like a whisper. As she played the first few notes, she felt a wave of calm wash over her. The music began to flow naturally, each note following the next with a rhythm that felt instinctive. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting herself be carried by the melody. The room seemed to fade around her, leaving only her, the piano, and the sound that she could create. The playful joke had transformed into a serious performance, though she was still unsure if anyone truly understood the depth of her emotions at that moment. She played with passion, letting the music speak for her. She did not focus on impressing the crowd. She focused on telling a story with each note, expressing joy, sorrow, hope, and wonder. Her fingers moved gracefully over the keys, creating harmonies that were both delicate and powerful. Each chord resonated through the hall, touching the hearts of the listeners in ways words could not. Even the famous pianist watched in quiet amazement, unable to look away as the young musician brought life to the piano. The audience, initially expecting a light-hearted moment, began to listen intently. Whispers of admiration spread through the crowd as people realized that what they were hearing was not just a simple performance but a display of extraordinary talent and heartfelt expression. Some held their breath, mesmerized, while others leaned forward, eager not to miss a single note. The atmosphere changed, filled with a sense of awe and wonder. She continued playing, her nerves fading as she lost herself in the music. Time seemed to stretch and contract, each moment feeling both fleeting and eternal. She could sense the connection between her and the listeners, a silent understanding that music could transcend words and touch the soul. The applause that might have erupted at a mistake never came, because there were no mistakes, only a story being told through sound. By the time she reached the end of the piece, the room was silent for a brief, suspended moment, as if everyone was holding their breath. Then, slowly, the silence gave way to thunderous applause. People stood, clapping and cheering, some even shouting words of encouragement and amazement. She opened her eyes, seeing smiles, tears, and faces filled with astonishment. Her heart swelled with a mixture of relief, pride, and happiness. She had turned what began as a playful joke into a moment that would be remembered. The famous pianist approached her, clapping with genuine admiration. His eyes sparkled with surprise and respect. He shook her hand, praising her skill and expression. The audience continued cheering, and she felt a warm glow of accomplishment. She had faced her fear, embraced the unexpected challenge, and shared her love of music in the most authentic way possible. That day marked a turning point in her life. It was not just about the applause or recognition. It was about discovering the courage to step into the unknown, trusting her talent, and allowing her passion to shine. She realized that opportunities could come in the most unexpected ways, and that even a moment that seemed like a joke could become a defining experience. The music, the stage, and the crowd had become part of her journey, reminding her that her gift had the power to move people in ways she had only dreamed of before. As she left the stage, the sounds of applause still echoing in her ears, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. She knew that this was only the beginning, that her journey as a musician had many chapters yet to unfold. But in that moment, she allowed herself to simply be present, to savor the joy of having shared her music with the world, and to remember that sometimes, the most extraordinary moments come when you least expect them. After the performance, she found herself backstage, still trembling with a mix of excitement and disbelief. The applause from the audience seemed to echo in her mind, replaying over and over like a beautiful melody she couldn't forget. She had faced the unexpected challenge and had turned it into something extraordinary. Yet the reality of what had happened was slowly sinking in. Her fingers still tingled from the rush of playing under the bright lights, but more than that, she felt a strange sense of confidence she hadn't experienced before. It was as if the music had unlocked something inside her, a courage that had been quietly waiting to emerge. Backstage was a flurry of activity. Musicians hurried past, tuning their instruments or whispering last-minute instructions. The young pianist leaned against a wall, clutching her sheet music, trying to calm her racing heart. She knew that this moment, though brief, had the power to change everything. She had always dreamed of performing on larger stages, yet she never imagined it would happen in such a sudden, almost playful way. The famous pianist approached her, a warm smile on his face, still clapping softly in admiration. "I didn't expect that at all," he said quietly, his voice filled with genuine amazement. "You have something special. You played with feeling, and it wasn't just skill, it was emotion." That's what makes a performance unforgettable. She felt her cheeks flush. Compliments from someone she had admired for years were both flattering and intimidating. She had always been focused on the music itself, not recognition or praise. Yet hearing these words made her realize that what she did mattered, that her music could move people in ways she had only hoped for. Later, in a quieter corner, she began to replay the events in her mind. The nervousness before stepping onto the stage, the way her fingers had instinctively found the keys, the way the audience had reacted. It all felt surreal. She remembered the first few notes, unsure if they would come out as she imagined, and the sudden calm that settled over her as the music began to flow. It was a reminder that talent could emerge even in moments of uncertainty, and that sometimes the pressure of the unexpected could bring out the best in a person. She left the festival venue later that evening, the cool night air brushing against her face. The streets were quiet now, the city lights casting a gentle glow on the pavement. She walked slowly, replaying the applause and the expressions of the audience in her mind. Each step felt lighter than the last, as if the experience had lifted a weight she didn't realize she had been carrying. It wasn't just the recognition that mattered. It was the affirmation that her music had meaning, that it had the power to touch others, even in a world filled with countless performers. The following days were a whirlwind. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers approached her, congratulating her on the performance. Social media buzzed with clips of her playing, and music enthusiasts shared their admiration for her talent. While the attention was overwhelming at first, she realized it was not the fame she sought but the connection through music that truly mattered. People wrote to her, sharing how her performance had inspired them, how it had stirred emotions they didn't expect to feel. Each message was a reminder of why she played, why she devoted countless hours to perfecting her art. Amid the excitement, she also faced moments of doubt. The sudden recognition brought pressure, expectations from others, and a fear of not living up to the new image people had of her. Would she be able to recreate the magic in future performances? Could she handle the scrutiny and attention that now seemed inevitable? She knew she had to find balance, to remain true to herself and her love for music, even as opportunities began to multiply. It was a delicate challenge, but one she was determined to face with honesty and courage. In her quiet moments, she returned to her piano at home. The familiar keys offered comfort, a reminder of why she began playing in the first place. She practiced tirelessly, experimenting with new compositions, perfecting old pieces, and allowing herself the freedom to explore her own style. Each session was a dialogue with herself, a chance to grow and to deepen her understanding of the instrument that had become an extension of her emotions. She realized that while recognition was gratifying, the true reward lay in the process, in the dedication and passion she poured into every note. Friends and family noticed a change in her demeanor. She walked with a subtle confidence, a quiet assurance that came from having faced a challenge she never expected. Conversations often turned to music, and she found herself sharing insights and stories about her experiences. She spoke about the nervous moments, the adrenaline, and the unexpected joy of connecting with an audience. People listened, captivated not only by her talent but by the authenticity of her journey. Her story was a reminder that perseverance and dedication could lead to moments of unexpected brilliance. Opportunities began to present themselves. Invitations to perform at other festivals arrived, along with messages from music schools and concert halls. Each offer was exciting, but she approached them carefully, mindful of staying true to her artistic vision. She remembered the playful nature of the original invitation and realized that it was a reminder not to take life too seriously, to embrace challenges with openness and courage. Even as her world expanded, she held on to the simplicity and sincerity that had defined her musical journey from the beginning. She also spent time reflecting on the people who had supported her along the way. Teachers, mentors, family members, and friends had all contributed to her growth, encouraging her when self-doubt threatened to take over. She knew that her success was not hers alone but a shared triumph with those who had believed in her and nurtured her passion. Gratitude became a constant companion, a quiet reminder that achievements were more meaningful when shared and appreciated. Despite the excitement and new experiences, she remained grounded. She continued to play for small gatherings, local audiences, and even moments of solitude at home. These intimate performances reminded her of the pure joy of creating music, free from expectation or scrutiny. She cherished these times, knowing that they were as important as the larger stages and applause. Music was not a competition or a performance. It was a part of her life, a way to express herself and connect with the world. In this period of reflection and growth, she learned an important lesson: that courage often comes in small moments, and that embracing the unexpected can lead to remarkable experiences. The playful invitation from the famous pianist, initially a source of fear and doubt, had become a turning point in her life. It had shown her that talent, when combined with dedication and authenticity, could shine even under pressure. More importantly, it had reminded her that music was a gift, a language that could communicate in ways words never could. As weeks passed, she prepared for upcoming performances, each one an opportunity to explore new pieces, challenge herself, and continue growing as a musician. She approached each performance with a mix of excitement and focus, aware that every note mattered and every audience was unique. Her confidence had grown, but so had her humility, as she recognized that learning and improvement were lifelong pursuits. She embraced the journey, knowing that every experience, every challenge, and every moment of joy or fear contributed to the depth and richness of her artistry. Through it all, she never lost sight of the simple love that had first drawn her to the piano. The early mornings of practice, the hours of repetition, and the quiet moments of discovery remained the foundation of her passion. Each performance, whether on a grand stage or in a small room, was a continuation of that love, a way to honor the music that had shaped her life. And in every note, she found a piece of herself, shared with those willing to listen and feel. She began to understand that true artistry was not about applause or recognition but about honesty and expression. The audience might come and go, and opportunities might rise and fade, but the music remained a constant, a living reflection of her journey and her spirit. With each day, she grew more confident in her ability to face challenges, to embrace the unexpected, and to share her gift with the world. And deep down, she knew that this was only the beginning of a journey filled with discovery, growth, and the endless beauty of music. The day of her next major performance arrived with a mix of excitement and tension. She had been invited to play at a large music hall in the city, a venue far bigger than anything she had experienced before. The thought of performing in front of so many people, some of whom had traveled long distances to hear her, made her heart race. Yet beneath the nerves, there was a growing sense of determination. She knew that this was another chance to share her music, to connect with an audience in a meaningful way, and to continue the journey that had begun with that unexpected invitation from the famous pianist. As she entered the hall, she was struck by the grandeur of the space. The polished wooden floors reflected the soft glow of the chandeliers, and the stage seemed to stretch farther than she could see. Rows upon rows of seats were waiting to be filled, and she imagined each one occupied by someone ready to listen, to feel, and to respond to the music she would create. She carried her sheet music carefully, a familiar anchor amidst the unfamiliar surroundings. The piano on stage gleamed, its surface pristine, promising both challenge and opportunity. Backstage, musicians were preparing for their performances. Some were practicing scales quietly, others adjusting their instruments or discussing technical details. She found a quiet corner and began running through a few of her pieces, focusing on the finger movements, the timing, and the emotional flow. Her mind cycled between excitement and nerves, but she reminded herself of the lessons she had learned. Trust in her abilities, let the music guide her, and connect honestly with every note. When her turn was announced, she felt a mixture of anticipation and calm. She walked onto the stage, hearing the audience's polite applause as they acknowledged her presence. The hall was large, and the sound carried in a way that was both intimidating and inspiring. She approached the piano, her fingers brushing the keys lightly, feeling the familiar texture beneath her touch. Taking a deep breath, she reminded herself to focus on the music, not the audience, and let the performance unfold naturally. As her hands moved across the keys, she felt the notes come alive beneath her fingers. The first melody was soft and tender, drawing the listeners in. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting herself be fully present, allowing the music to guide her emotions. Each chord resonated through the hall, filling the space with a blend of elegance, passion, and subtle intensity. The audience was silent, captivated by the purity and depth of the sound. She could feel their attention, the way they leaned forward, listening intently, as though each note carried a secret meant only for them. With each piece, she pushed herself further, exploring the emotional range of the music. She played not just with skill but with intention, allowing the piano to speak for her heart. Some parts were delicate and fragile, requiring precision and control. Others were bold and dramatic, demanding strength and confidence. She shifted seamlessly between moods, carrying the audience through a journey of sound that felt both intimate and grand. Every moment on the stage was a conversation, a connection, a shared experience that transcended words. During the performance, she became aware of subtle reactions from the audience. Some faces were touched, eyes glistening with tears. Others nodded along with the rhythm, caught up in the movement and flow of the music. She noticed the famous pianist, sitting in the front row, watching with an expression of admiration and surprise. His presence was reassuring, a reminder that she had the support and recognition of someone whose opinion mattered deeply to her. Yet she did not play for him. She played for everyone, letting the music itself be the messenger. Time seemed to bend as she continued. The beginning of the performance felt both distant and immediate, while the end felt as though it approached faster than she expected. She moved through the repertoire with confidence, embracing the challenges of each piece, and allowing herself to fully inhabit the emotions behind every note. The piano responded to her touch with clarity and resonance, and she felt a sense of unity with the instrument that was almost spiritual. It was more than a performance, it was an act of creation, an offering of herself through sound. By the middle of the set, the energy in the hall had shifted. The audience was no longer just observers. They were participants in the journey. The way they leaned forward, the subtle gasps or sighs, the quiet smiles, all of it fed back to her, inspiring deeper expression. She felt a flow of energy that carried her through the most intricate passages, allowing her fingers to move with both precision and freedom. Her heart raced, but not from fear. Rather, it was the exhilaration of sharing something profoundly personal and watching it touch others. A particularly challenging piece approached, one that required both technical skill and emotional depth. She paused for a moment, taking a steadying breath, then let her fingers find the keys. The music began softly, almost hesitant, then grew in complexity and intensity. Every note had to be exact, every rhythm precise, yet she infused it with feeling, allowing imperfection to become beauty. The audience was silent again, the weight of attention palpable, yet she remained focused, trusting the preparation and practice that had carried her this far as the final chords echoed through the hall. She held them for just a moment longer, letting the resonance fade naturally. The room was quiet for a heartbeat, suspended between sound and silence, before the audience erupted into applause. The noise was overwhelming, a wave of sound and energy that seemed to lift her from the stage. She opened her eyes, taking in the sea of faces, many smiling, some teary, all expressing admiration and gratitude. It was a moment of triumph, not just for the applause but for the connection she had made through music. After stepping away from the piano, she felt a mix of relief and exhilaration. Her body ached slightly from the intensity of the performance, yet her spirit felt light and fulfilled. The applause continued, and she took a small bow, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. Backstage, she was met with congratulations from other musicians, some of whom she had admired from afar. Their words of praise were sincere, recognizing not just technical ability, but the emotional depth she brought to the music. The famous pianist approached her once more, this time with an expression that combined pride and admiration. He spoke quietly, commending her performance and noting how much she had grown since that first playful invitation. She felt a warm glow of encouragement, realizing that she had not only met expectations but exceeded them, even her own. It was a reminder that talent, nurtured with dedication and authenticity, could shine in ways she had only begun to understand. Later that evening, she walked through the quiet city streets, the energy of the performance still vibrating in her chest. She replayed the music in her mind, each note a memory, each melody a reflection of her emotions. The experience had been transformative, reinforcing her belief in the power of music to communicate, to heal, and to inspire. It had shown her that the stage, no matter how large, was simply a place to share a part of herself, and that connection with others was the true reward. In the days that followed, she reflected on her journey and the lessons she had learned. Courage often arrived unexpectedly, as had happened with the playful invitation from the famous pianist. Opportunities could be disguised as challenges, and embracing them with honesty and dedication could lead to extraordinary experiences. She also understood that success was not measured solely by applause or recognition but by the authenticity and intention behind every action. Her music, rooted in passion and sincerity, had the power to move others because it was true to herself. As she prepared for future performances, she carried these lessons with her. Each new stage was an opportunity to explore, to grow, and to connect. She experimented with new compositions, refined familiar pieces, and continued to develop her unique style. Practice remained central, but she balanced it with moments of reflection, improvisation, and play, understanding that creativity thrived in both discipline and freedom. Through all of this, she never lost sight of the love that had drawn her to the piano as a child. Every note, every chord, every pause was a continuation of that initial passion. She learned to embrace nervousness as a companion rather than an obstacle, using it to fuel focus and emotion. She discovered that vulnerability on stage was not a weakness but a strength, allowing audiences to feel the honesty of her expression. And above all, she realized that music was a living dialogue, a bridge between her heart and the hearts of those willing to listen. Her journey was far from over, but this performance marked a significant chapter. It reinforced the idea that talent, when combined with courage and authenticity, could transcend expectation and leave a lasting impression. It reminded her that every challenge carried opportunity, every stage offered connection, and every note played with sincerity had the power to change a moment, a day, or even a life. And in that understanding, she found not just confidence, but a deeper love for the art that had defined her journey and would continue to shape her future. After her performance at the large music hall, word of her talent began to spread quickly. People who had attended the concert talked about her for days, sharing their amazement and admiration. Social media accounts posted clips and photos of her playing, and messages of praise came from around the world. She found herself receiving invitations to perform at events she had only dreamed of, from music festivals in other cities to charity concerts and even television appearances. Despite the sudden attention, she remained focused on her music, reminding herself that each note she played mattered more than the applause. One morning, as she was preparing for a rehearsal, she received a message from a well-known music academy in another city. They had watched the recordings of her performance and wanted her to perform as a guest for an upcoming event. The message was formal, professional, and filled with excitement at the prospect of her presence. She felt a mix of exhilaration and nervousness. Traveling to a new city, performing for a different audience, and meeting other accomplished musicians were thrilling prospects, but they also carried the pressure of expectation. She spent the next few days preparing, selecting pieces that would showcase her strengths while remaining true to her style. She practiced diligently, repeating passages, experimenting with expression, and refining her interpretations. She also took time to rest, understanding that performance required not just skill but physical and emotional stamina. As the day of the event approached, she felt a quiet determination. She wanted to bring her music to life, to touch the audience's hearts, and to honor the opportunity she had been given. When she arrived at the Music Academy, she was greeted warmly by the staff and other performers. The venue was elegant, with rows of seats stretching back from the stage and lights casting a gentle glow on the polished wooden floor. She was shown to the backstage area, where other musicians were preparing their instruments and warming up. The atmosphere was filled with anticipation, quiet conversations, and the occasional sound of a piano or violin being tested. She found a corner to focus, quietly reviewing her sheet music and running through a few passages. Her turn to perform arrived, and she walked onto the stage, her heart racing but her mind focused. She acknowledged the audience with a gentle nod and took her place at the piano. The moment her fingers touched the keys, she felt a familiar connection, the kind that made her forget about the crowd and focus solely on the music. She began with a gentle melody, allowing the notes to flow naturally, each one carrying emotion and intention. The audience listened quietly, some leaning forward, others closing their eyes, fully immersed in the sound. As she continued, the music became more dynamic, shifting between soft, reflective passages and powerful, expressive moments. She played with confidence and vulnerability, allowing the piano to convey feelings that words could not express. She felt a deep connection with the audience, sensing their reactions through the quiet murmurs, occasional sighs, and attentive posture. The performance was a dialogue, a shared experience that transcended language and culture. She played not for recognition, but to communicate, to share the music that had been her companion and inspiration for so long. During a particularly challenging section, her fingers moved swiftly across the keys, navigating intricate passages with precision. She felt a surge of adrenaline, but also a sense of calm control. Each note had a purpose, each chord was deliberate, and the music flowed as if it were alive. The audience responded, their attention unwavering, some nodding gently to the rhythm, others visibly moved by the depth of emotion. She realized that this connection was the true reward of performing, a reminder that music could reach the hearts of people in ways that words often could not. As she neared the end of her performance, she introduced a piece she had composed herself. It was a composition born from quiet moments of reflection, a piece that expressed her journey, her fears, her dreams, and her love for music. She played with care, shaping each phrase and pause to convey the intended emotion. The audience responded with an intensity she had not expected. They were silent, attentive, fully absorbed in the experience, as if each note were a bridge connecting her heart to theirs. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that her music had made an impact beyond technical skill or showmanship. When the final note faded, the hall was quiet for a brief moment, suspended between sound and silence. Then, the audience erupted into applause, a wave of appreciation and admiration that filled the space. She stood, took a small bow, and felt a mix of relief, joy, and pride. The applause was more than recognition. It was confirmation that her music had resonated, that her message had been received. She felt a quiet gratitude for the opportunity to share her gift and for the courage to embrace challenges that had once seemed intimidating. Backstage, she was met by the staff and other musicians, who congratulated her warmly. Some expressed astonishment at her ability to convey emotion and technical skill simultaneously. Others were curious about her compositional process and her approach to performance. She answered their questions with humility, explaining that practice, focus, and honesty in expression were central to her approach. She emphasized that music was a way to connect, and that each performance was a unique opportunity to touch others' hearts. Over the following days, she received invitations for more performances, collaborations with other musicians, and even mentorship opportunities for young pianists. Each offer was exciting, yet she remained grounded, carefully considering which opportunities aligned with her values and artistic vision. She wanted to ensure that each performance, each collaboration, reflected authenticity and integrity. Fame and attention were secondary. The music itself was the most important aspect, the true measure of her success. She continued to practice daily, exploring new techniques, studying different composers, and refining her interpretation of familiar pieces. Her routine balanced discipline with creativity, structure with freedom, and focus with reflection. She spent hours experimenting with expression, dynamics, and phrasing, seeking to deepen her understanding of both the technical and emotional aspects of performance. In these moments, she felt a profound sense of joy, a reminder of why she had dedicated herself to music from a young age. At the same time, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. The playful invitation from the famous pianist, which had once seemed intimidating, had been a turning point. It had opened doors, built confidence, and inspired her to embrace challenges with courage and authenticity. She realized that life often presented opportunities in unexpected ways, and that embracing them fully could lead to experiences and growth beyond imagination. She also understood the importance of gratitude for mentors, supporters, and audiences who recognized and nurtured her talent. She remained humble, recognizing that each performance was a chance to learn and improve. Mistakes or imperfections were not failures but lessons, opportunities to deepen her understanding and refine her craft. She sought feedback from trusted mentors and fellow musicians, always striving to grow while maintaining the emotional truth of her performances. She balanced ambition with patience, understanding that true artistry was a lifelong pursuit, and that each performance was a step in a continuous journey. In quieter moments, she returned to her own compositions, exploring new ideas and experimenting with different musical styles. She found inspiration in everyday life, in the sounds of the city, the rhythm of nature, and the emotions she experienced personally and observed in others. Composing became a way to capture fleeting moments, translate them into music, and share them with audiences in a meaningful way. It was another form of expression, complementing her performances and deepening her connection to the piano. Throughout this period, she remained committed to sharing her love of music with others. She volunteered for small local events, offered lessons to young students, and participated in community programs. These experiences reminded her that music was not just about recognition or accolades, but about connection, communication, and inspiration. She cherished the opportunity to make a difference in others' lives, to nurture talent, and to inspire a love of music in the next generation. Her growth as a musician was mirrored by growth as a person. She developed resilience, patience, and confidence, learning to navigate challenges with grace and determination. She learned to embrace the unpredictability of opportunities, to trust her instincts, and to approach each performance with a balance of focus and openness. She discovered that success was not solely defined by achievements, but by dedication, authenticity, and the ability to touch others' hearts. Through all of this, she never lost sight of the joy that had first drawn her to the piano. The early mornings, long hours of practice, and quiet moments of reflection remained the foundation of her passion. Each performance, whether in a grand hall or a small room, was a continuation of her journey, a chance to share her love for music with the world. And as she looked toward the future, she knew that her path would continue to unfold with challenges, opportunities, and moments of inspiration, each one shaping her into the musician and person she was becoming as time passed. Her life as a pianist grew fuller and more complex. She continued to perform in concert halls, at festivals, and at community events. Each performance brought new challenges, new audiences, and new opportunities to explore her craft. Yet, despite the increasing attention and the busy schedule, she remained grounded. She knew that every note mattered, that every performance was a chance to communicate, and that the heart of her journey was the music itself. One morning, she received an invitation to perform at an international music festival, a gathering of the finest musicians from around the world. The excitement was overwhelming. This was an opportunity to step onto a global stage, to be seen and heard by people who shared her passion for music at the highest level. She felt both exhilarated and nervous. The idea of traveling, performing, and meeting other talented musicians filled her with anticipation, but also with a quiet fear of not living up to the expectation that came with such an event. She spent the days leading up to the festival preparing meticulously. She selected pieces that were technically demanding but emotionally expressive. She practiced for hours, ensuring every phrase, every chord, and every pause carried the intended emotion. Beyond technique, she focused on connecting with the music on a deeper level, imagining the stories and feelings behind each note. The preparation was intense, but it also brought her closer to the essence of her artistry. She understood that talent alone was not enough. It had to be combined with understanding, intention, and authenticity. Arriving at the festival, she was struck by the scale and grandeur of the venue. Musicians from many countries were tuning their instruments, rehearsing, and exchanging friendly greetings. She felt a sense of camaraderie and respect, knowing she was among people who shared the same dedication and love for music. Backstage, she found a quiet corner and reviewed her pieces one last time, letting her fingers move across the keys, feeling the textures, and preparing her mind for the performance. When she was called to the stage, her heart pounded with excitement. The hall was packed, and the audience was eager to listen. She walked to the piano, acknowledging the crowd with a calm smile, and let her fingers touch the keys. The music began softly, each note deliberate and full of meaning. She closed her eyes and let herself become immersed in the sound, forgetting everything else. The music was no longer just notes on a page. It was a living story, expressing her experiences, emotions, and the journey she had taken as a musician. As she played, she felt the energy of the audience. They were attentive, moved, and present, listening not just with their ears but with their hearts. Each crescendo, each delicate passage, carried an emotion that connected her with those who were listening. She realized that music was a universal language, one that could cross boundaries, cultures, and ages. The hall seemed to breathe with her, alive with sound, energy, and emotion. In that moment, she understood the true power of her gift. The performance reached its peak with a piece she had composed herself, inspired by moments of reflection, growth, and discovery. It was both personal and universal, a story of challenges faced, fears overcome, and dreams pursued. She played with a mixture of vulnerability and strength, letting every note speak honestly. The audience responded in kind, leaning forward, closing their eyes, or letting tears form quietly. The music had become a bridge between her heart and theirs, a shared experience that transcended words. When the last note lingered and finally faded, the hall was silent for a heartbeat. Then, a wave of applause erupted, filling the space with energy and admiration. Standing ovations followed, and she bowed deeply, a mixture of relief, joy, and gratitude washing over her. It was more than recognition of skill. It was an acknowledgement of the authenticity and emotion she had brought to the performance. She felt deeply touched, knowing her music had truly resonated with the audience. Backstage, other musicians and festival organizers approached her, offering congratulations, expressing astonishment, and sharing their admiration. Many wanted to know how she composed her pieces, how she connected so fully with her music, and how she approached performances with such authenticity. She shared her insights humbly, emphasizing that dedication, practice, emotional honesty, and the courage to embrace challenges were key. She reminded them that every musician had their own journey, and each performance was an opportunity to tell a story. After the festival, invitations and opportunities multiplied. Offers came to perform in other countries, collaborate with renowned musicians, and teach workshops for aspiring pianists. While the attention was exciting, she remained focused on the essence of her passion, sharing music that was authentic, heartfelt, and meaningful. She made careful choices, ensuring that each opportunity aligned with her vision and allowed her to continue growing as both a musician and a person. She also spent time mentoring young musicians, sharing the lessons she had learned. She taught them not just technical skills, but also the importance of expression, emotion, and authenticity. She encouraged them to embrace challenges, to be courageous in stepping onto stages that might feel intimidating, and to trust in the power of their own talent. Watching them grow, overcome fears, and find their voice became a source of immense joy and inspiration for her. In quiet moments, she returned to composing, exploring new sounds, harmonies, and rhythms. She experimented with blending styles, telling stories through her music, and capturing the nuances of her emotions. Each composition was a reflection of her journey, an extension of her experiences, and a way to continue communicating with the world. The process of creating music brought her fulfillment, balance, and a deep sense of purpose. Reflecting on her journey, she realized how far she had come from that initial, playful invitation that had seemed like a joke. That moment had opened doors, challenged her to step beyond fear, and revealed the courage and talent she possessed. She understood that opportunities often appear unexpectedly, and embracing them with openness and determination could lead to life-changing experiences. More importantly, she recognized the importance of gratitude for mentors, supporters, audiences, and every person who had believed in her along the way. She remained humble, knowing that every performance, every composition, and every challenge was a step in a lifelong journey. Mistakes were lessons, applause was encouragement, and connection with the audience was the ultimate reward. She understood that music was not about perfection or recognition, but about sincerity, expression, and the ability to touch hearts. Each day of practice, each quiet moment at the piano, and each performance was an opportunity to continue growing and sharing her gift. Over time, she developed resilience, patience, and a deep understanding of herself as both a musician and a person. She learned to balance ambition with humility, discipline with creativity, and focus with openness. She embraced the unpredictability of opportunities, trusting that each moment could teach her something valuable. Through it all, her love for music remained at the center, guiding her choices and fueling her passion. Her journey was marked by many milestones, but she valued the small moments just as much as the grand performances. Quiet evenings spent composing, the smiles of young students discovering the joy of music, and the subtle reactions of audiences touched by her performances were all reminders of why she pursued this path. Every experience contributed to her growth, shaping her into a musician capable of expressing depth, emotion, and authenticity through her art. Looking to the future, she embraced the unknown with confidence. She knew that challenges would arise, audiences would vary, and opportunities would continue to present themselves in unexpected ways. Yet she was ready, equipped with talent, experience, and the courage to embrace each moment fully. She understood that her gift was not simply for recognition or fame, but to connect, inspire, and communicate through the universal language of music. As she continued performing, composing, and mentoring, she found fulfillment in knowing that her journey was meaningful not only to herself but to those who listened, learned, and were inspired by her music. The playful invitation that had once seemed like a joke had transformed her life, revealing the strength, talent, and courage that lay within her. She had embraced the unexpected, trusted her instincts, and allowed her passion to shine, leaving a lasting impact on everyone who experienced her music. And so, her story continued, a life dedicated to music, growth, connection, and authenticity. Each performance, each composition, and each interaction carried the lessons of her journey, the joy of sharing her gift, and the knowledge that music could change moments, lives, and hearts. Through dedication, courage, and a deep love for her art, she had not only stunned audiences but had also discovered the power of embracing every opportunity and following her passion with unwavering sincerity.